25 sites. The micro trials, this is what we've gotten off the ground thus far, are 2 sites. These typically are going to be 100 to 200 patients. The micro trials are going to be on the order of 12 to 24 patients. We've actually talked the NIH into letting us hold all of the INDs under investigator-held INDs. We've got the regulatory support to do that. For all of the small trials, they're going to be K23, KO2, KO8 people. We're going to do that while we draft it. If you get into the 200-patient trial, you either need to be somebody who delivered here and you move forward, be under the on time, on budget, do what you told your mom you were going to do in kindergarten plan, or you're an established PI and you have a track record with us to deliver. So this has been great. We've actually reduced kind of the direct costs because the investigators have agreed that we need to do this and get these in front of Congress, kind of try to do the right thing for children. Obviously the data are going to both FDA and the European counterpart. We've shown that we can actually complete a trial, we actually did that. Mickey Cohen-Wolkowitz was our first PI under this. We started metronidazole, and we're now 2/3 of the way through enrollment. I won't go over the details of the trial, but it's a small PK trial. It's getting us new investigators into the pipeline, new blood into the PTN. Data are submitted for labeling regardless, and we're improving dosing. If you look at what we've done since October 2010, we actually got our first IND, our first IRB approval. We had our first patient enrolled 93 days after the initial signing of the contract. So we got IND, IRB, contract to the site, first baby enrolled, 93 days. Our target was 90 days. We missed it by 3 days. I was a little bitter about that, but we got it January 1st, 2011 on day 93. We've designed several other protocols, and we're now at the point, there's nothing like young investigators who are like motivated because like, hey, why don't you write a protocol and then we'll give you some salary support. You know, if I do that to a full professor, you know, they're going to tell me to jump in a lake. But an assistant professor is willing to do a handshake deal, and so we've now got we've actually written our 7th protocol. We have several INDs right now. We're actively enrolling in 2, and we're most of the way through one of the trial enrollment. One of the trial designs that we like a lot is we're calling opportunistic, and I'll give you the one-liner about that. You've got all these children coming into Emory, and you've never studied the PK of them, and yet you keep giving them the drug, just like we would do, and or UNC or whatever. So the informed consent's very simple. You're on an off-patent therapeutic. Nobody knows the PK. Why don't you let us have a little bit of blood, and we'll batch these samples together, and we'll get preliminary data to design the PK trial. Just like you get preliminary epi data before doing the pivotal trial, we're going to learn a little bit about dosing. It's going to be imperfect information. We'll learn a little bit about it, and we'll go ahead and batch these samples and ultimately publish some preliminary results about what the right dosing should be. And we're going to get, that's been successful enough that we're going to get 15 sites off the ground in 11, another 15 in 12, and another 15 in 2013. So if I want to get involved in the Peace Trials Network, and I want to be a site for a particular study, you want to either contact the study PI or the network PI, which happens to be me, and I'm going to say, hey, why don't you contact the study PI who happens to be so. If you want to be a protocol chair, go to the website for BPCA. There's a list of prioritized drugs. Check out the label, because then if you contact me after that, I'll say, hey, what does the label say for adult indications? Is there a pediatric, God bless you, is there a pediatric indication for your handy use here? Here's where there's a list of all labels. Let's give me a one-page summary of the PK that we know about in children. Give us a call. We'll discuss it with NICHD to see if we can get them to partner and get them on the hook for it. And then we'll talk about next steps. Usually at this point, when we're asking now an investigator to draft a protocol, the probability of funding is about 95%. NICHD has said, okay, we're giving you a verbal to go ahead with this group. So I wanted to leave 5 minutes for questions. So with that,
so these are all measures of PK, and PKs are wonderful testing measures. Are you trying to associate some of these studies with actual disease outcomes?
yeah, so PK/PD is obviously then the next step, PK safety, then PK efficacy, okay? And that depends on the indication, all right? If you're talking about perforated abdominal infections following necrotizing enterocolitis, about the best we're going to be able to enroll is about 100 babies into that. That's going to be at 30 sites. That's a multi-million-dollar trial. That's about the limit. You know, I can't spend all 95 billion on the perfect trial, right? So, so for some entities, we're going to get pivotal data. For some entities, we're going to be more like the necrotizing enterocolitis, where we get PK, PK/PD, PK/PD safety, and a little bit of hint about efficacy related to outcomes. Okay, that's going to be kind of the bread and butter. That's going to be the 100 to 200 patient trial. That'll be there'll be a couple of trials per year that go off like that. So you'll see about half a dozen PK safety, you know, kind of 40 babies, 40 children, 40 adolescents, patient trials per year, and 1 or 2 kind of in the 100 to 200 patient range. Because if you think about the cost of doing a 200 or 400 patient pediatric trial, that's 10 or 20 million bucks, and you know, I can't spend can't really spend it all that on the front trial.
But just as in principle, just as you're making the point that pharmacokinetic data in development can't necessarily be extrapolated to children for all the reasons that we give, it's also possible, for example, in your antimicrobial trials, that your area under the curve or other measures may not have the same association with positive outcomes as you see in place.
Absolutely. So your point is extremely well taken. And if you look at when you get efficacy trial surprises, okay, you can anticipate that if you get the dosing right and you get the safety right, you're going to have an efficacy surprise about 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 of the times. That's from the exclusivity. So I'm going to be wrong if all I do is PK, PD, PK, PD, safety. If I just do PK and safety trials, I'm going to be wrong a substantial amount of the time. And so at that point, it becomes, you know, a real judgment call as to how to allocate public dollars. Do I do 20 drugs and find out PK, PD, and safety, or do I do 1 drug and really nail it with respect to whole drug development program, PK, PD, safety, and efficacy? And I've taken the position that, and NIH has taken the position that the vast majority of these should be around safety and PK/PD rather than doing the efficacy studies, because the dollars are to do 1 efficacy study after another and hundreds of therapeutics is not there. I'd love to do the efficacy studies. I wish I had a better answer. Yes, sir.
Curious about maybe what you've seen as far as the success in getting patients on trials. So in hem-onc, many of the drugs that we use every day, like water, actually have never been specifically given the indication for treating ALL. So vincristine, which we use all the time, and there's been over the last couple of years